Hey there everyone, Mazrock here, and today we've got to talk about some pretty big class tuning coming for tanks and some changes coming to Season 2 of World of Warcraft Dragonflight. Before we do get into it though, please do like, comment, and subscribe. It goes such a long way to helping on the channel. Thank you to my patrons for making videos like this happen. There's a link down below if you're looking for early access tank club stuff, early access videos, because I tend to record sometimes in big chunks. So if you're looking for, early access stuff or just you want to support me directly, there's a link down below there. There's a Twitch link down below if you want to watch me stream, and a Discord link if you want to join a wonderful community full of great people. If I sound stuffy and stuff, I am definitely falling with sick of some sort. I had to cut the stream short yesterday. My brain felt like mashed potatoes. And so, yeah. But we do need to get into this. So, developers' notes. We've decided to increase both player stamina and enemy damage by 25% in Embers of Neltharion, which is 10.1. This is very much like an adjustment that was made before the launch of Dragonflight, and it's this for the same reasons. But right before Dragonflight, there was a 40% bump in player HP and a 40% bump in enemy damage done. This is for many reasons. It was kind of controversial. It was something. When damage mitigation abilities and healing are too strong relative to player health, the only way to threaten players is to make enemy damage very high and spiky. If healers can very quickly top off their teammates and mana isn't a limiting factor, enemies have to be tuned to have the capacity to do burst damage that kills players before healers can react. This isn't very satisfying gameplay. I do agree. Increasing player health gives players more time to react to incoming damage and makes players' choices about cooldowns and mana management more meaningful. How this actually plays out, everyone has their own opinions on it. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but yeah. Along with this change, you'll see several adjustments to hybrid healing spells, items, enchantments, as well as percentage-based healing spells. We got a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about here. Oh, jeez. Player stamina is being increased by 25%. So we are definitely going to be getting over 1 million HP in Season 2 of Dragonflight. And enemy spell and melee damage is increased by 25%, and self-healing and absorb shields spells for damage dealers and tanks have been increased by a commensurate amount. Commensurate? I don't know this word. Corresponding in size or degree. Oh, well, that's a great word. Let's go. We learned something today. So that they retain their impact when solo or when in a supporting group. All right, so we're going to be going over the tanks one by one and talking about how this is going to affect them and things like that, and seeing what they changed for each tank, because each tank did get something. So for Death Knight, blood draw healing is increased by 25%. This is not taken talent at all. For at least for blood, I don't know about Unholy and Frost. I can't speak to them. So doesn't matter. Blood Plague healing increased by 25%. We Blood Death Knights don't really rely on Blood Plague healing, but it is something. It's something. It's going to happen. Relish and Blood healing is increased by 25%. Again, we don't really rely on Relish and Blood healing, but it's something and not nothing. And Leech from Voracious is increased from 12% was 10%. Alright, so the majority of Blood Death Knight's healing doesn't come from any of those. Plain and simple. But how Blood Death Knight's healing currently works is relatively unaffected. It's based on the amount of damage taken, Death Strike healing, and the percentages of that aren't going to change. In fact, it's kind of going to stay the exact same. We're just going to have a bigger health pool, but the threats to one-shots are going to be a little bit higher than they were. So counterplay is going to be skill expression. Really, that's what I can kind of see. Now, again, these are my opinions, and we're going to see how this has to play out. I haven't gone in and tested anything yet. Right, I went to bed. I got offline last night. I watched the Toronto Lightning game, and I laughed hysterically and while laying down. And this came out, and I was like, oh, this is a thing. But I don't see blood really changing or how this really affects blood. So blood death knights, you seem to have come away very, very well. Vengeance Demon Hunter. Fell devastation healing is increased by 25%. That's good. You heal for 10% of all damage you deal to targets affected with frailty. Was 8%. This is actually a good change. I like this. Feast of Souls healing is increased by 25%. Meh. The maximum absorb of Revel in Pain is increased by 25%. We currently don't even use this talent. The Hunt now heals for 25% of damage you deal to your hunt target. Was 20%. Okay. Healing from consuming a soul fragment increased by 25%. Now, this already kind of needed to happen. This needed to happen as well, but we'll get into that afterwards. Charred Warblade causes you to heal for 4% of the damage dealt was 3. This is absolutely fucking laughable beyond belief. Soul Barrier Absorb is 25% additional damage. Don't even take that talent. The bonus absorb value from consuming a soul fragment is increased by 25%. So there's a couple of these that are really, really good, and we're going to talk about them. But does it offset it enough? Fell Devastation healing increased by 25%. This is obviously a good thing. You heal, but the problem is like I personally feel like Vengeance Demon Hunter, since the Dragonflight launch with the 40%, with the way that like now they're doing this by 25% with the, we're just going to call the other one the 40% buff, just to keep things kind of concise. I felt it kind of needed this anyway because the 40% buff already kind of negatively affected Vengeance Demon Hunter anyway. And their self-sustain is nowhere near what it used to be in Dragonflight. And I mean, Dragonflight Shadowlands. And I mean nowhere near what it used to be. In fact, there are times where I felt incredibly tanky in Dragonflight. And there are times where I just feel like I am just a piece of glass. You heal for 10% of all damage you deal to targets affected with frailty. Again, this is one you could have argued that they already needed without the 25% buff. Feast of Souls doesn't matter. Revel in Pain. Now this is going to be interesting because we might actually take this talent in Season 2 with the Fiery Brand Focus tier set. And what they're trying to do with Vengeance in Season 2 is they're trying to make it so we don't go towards the left side of the tree as heavily and try and go a little bit more to the right side of the tree, which doesn't really get taken. And I actually think that Vengeance needs a rework because of this. I've explained this in a video already, so whatever. But yeah, so we might actually take this, so this might actually become slightly relevant, but yeah, whatever. The Hunt now heals for 25% of the damage you deal to your hunt target. Was 20. Laughable. The healing from consuming a soul fragment is increased by 25%. Now this is actually pretty dope. You're gonna feel this, but the problem is you're gonna be taking 25% more damage. So you're gonna feel this, but you're gonna feel getting hit a lot harder, and that's part of the big problem there. Charred Warblade causes you to heal for 4% of fire damage dealt. That's just fucking lol. Like why? Like okay. Soul Barrier absorbs 25% more damage. Like I said, we really don't take it. And the bonus absorb value from consuming a soul fragment is increased by 25%, which is nice, but whatever. I think Vengeance Demon Hunter is going to get hit by this. Like, hit hard by this. I don't think this is going to be enough because they already, like, their talent tree requires you to take 5 talent points just to have full uptime on Demon Spikes, which is an okay active mitigation. Like, Prot Warrior gets shield block baseline, like, with no talent points. You just straight up get that baseline, and it's shield block, and how good that is. And Demon Hunters have to spend 5 points to get Demon Spikes, which is nowhere near as good, and it boggles my mind. I kind of feel bad for I don't think Vengeance is going to come out ahead with these. I really don't. But we're going to have to see how things are tuning. Like, there's going to have to be testing, so, like, this is early. I see the numbers, I react. Please understand that. Well, this could end up being something crazy OP. It could. But yeah. Regrowth healing is increased by 50%. Swift Mend healing is increased by 50%. Rejuvenation healing is increased by 25%. And Wild Growth healing is increased by 25%. Now, we're going to exclude Regrowth out of this quick conversation here. Swift Mend, Rejuve, Wild Growth. All this healing is increased by 25%. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Blizzard. You can't fucking cast any of these in bear form. In Pull, in Mythic Plus, you will die, get one shot clocked for even trying to cast one of these. What the fuck does it matter? Increase them by 20,000%. 50,000%. Doesn't matter in a plus 20 in the middle of a pull. If you cast a Rejuve, you're going to straight up fucking die. What's the point? It's great off healing, sure, after the pull is done. Or maybe in raid as the off tank if you can help out and, you know, all right, cool. My co-tank has the boss. I'm gonna do some quick healing now. Great. Mythic Plus, middle of a pull. You can't use any of these, so fucking strike those is fucking useless. Like, whatever. Regrowth, though, so we do have a couple of talents. We have Protector of the Pack, which stores X amount of damage into your next regrowth, but there's also Dreams of Cenarius that allows you to get, allows regrowth to be cast in bear form and can be buffed. This could maybe make that an off-meta kind of talent choice for survivability. There is some testing to be done here, and I like the fact that this is 50% and not just 25%. So that's really nice, and then you combine that with Protector of the Pack, which is pretty okay. Like, we're getting somewhere here to maybe to the point where we want to take some different talents, but the problem with that is where those talent choices are, how difficult they are to get to, and if you want to spend the talent points and give up some really good stuff to get to them. So, yeah. We'll have to see. Lunar Beam healing is increased by 25%. Fuck. Absolutely useless. No one takes Lunar Beam. It needs to do, like, 6 times more damage. Ellune's, I could be wrong, and people are taking Lunar Beam, but I have yet to see anyone take it, so. Ellune's Favored caused you to be healed by 40% of arcane damage, was 30. This is going to help Laser Bear, although, like, it seems like they're trying to push a more physical-oriented style build with the new tier sets. The Maul raise damage, thrash damage, which is all going to contribute to the larger absorbs. So we're gonna have to kind of see how that works. But I mean, it's small. I wouldn't exactly count on this being, you know, your saving grace. Brambles reflects 25% additional damage. Cool. Ursoc's Fury causes Thrash and Maul to grant an Absorb Shield for 60% of the damage done, was 50. Remember when this was like a decently high number and they nerfed it down to 30 and that's what we had at the start of Dragonflight and now they're back up to 60? I mean, this to me just further proves that they don't know where they're going with Bear. They just don't know. This and like... Yeah. Okay. You need to make some of these castable in bear form from time to time. Like, you do. This has to happen. No, it doesn't have to happen. It'd be really, really fucking nice if it did, though. It would be great if this happened. I don't know, like, have a cooldown, like, I don't know, during Nature's Vigil or something. Like, you can cast Swiftmend and Rejuves in friggin' bear form or something. I don't know. But you need something, because this is outside of the few scenarios I made earlier. I think Bear is going to get hit kind of hard. Now, they did recently buffed the Mastery for Bear, which is really, really nice. So we already have a little bit higher of a health pool through Mastery. We're going to be very, very chonky boys. And on top of that, Frenzied Regen is always going to be a percentage based of your health, which is going to be really, really good and really solid. So that gets subsequently buffed by the 25%. Whenever you gain more health, Frenzied Regen just does more healing, but it's always based on a percentage, so it kind of washes itself away, but then you also do have other means to heal yourself as well. The Ursox Fury causes Thrash and Maul to grant an Absorb Shield. Now, they are also increasing the damage of Maul, Thrash, and stuff like that with the tier set. So this is going to get buffed and buffed by tier, so there is some bonus there, but there's some stuff here that's also kind of laughable. I think Bear is going to kind of stay right on the straight and narrow. I don't think they're going to lose much. Now, we do have to remember these are intended nerfs, right? So it's not a question of who's coming out ahead, but who's going the least far behind. That's what we have to talk about here. Brewmaster, Soothing Mist is increased by 25%. Doesn't matter. Chi Burst Healing, Chi Wave Healing, 25%. Cool. Expel Harm Healing is increased by 25%. Now, this actually does matter, because Expel Harm is basically a lay on hands for Brewmasters, especially once you've been running higher keys, and you've learned how to manage your stagger to the point where you can get a 4 or 5 stack of Purified Cheese, and get all of that nice big Expel Harm out. I have definitely seen this bring me from 20 to 100% every 10 seconds, 10-15 seconds. Like, it's a big heal. So this being increased by 25% is pretty nice, actually. Staggering Strikes reduces stagger by an additional 25%. Nice. Celestial Brew absorbs 25% additional damage. Now, it is to note that with the Blackout combo and other talent choices, we can get Celestial Brew down to an insanely low cooldown. So 25% additional damage of absorbs is really nice, actually. And I think this one's going to be one of the bigger ones, especially for hits, and how powerful Celestial Brew can be in the right hands with those managing their stagger correctly. Vivify Healing is increased by 92%. Okay, this is a cover-up, number one, because you don't increase the healing of a talent by 92% for a 25% HP buff. It's because Vivify Healing wasn't fucking doing anything in the first place. It was very lackluster and kind of sad to cast. Straight up. If you've ever cast a Vivify, if you were ever at 415, cast a Vivify on yourself, look at how little that does. Or on someone else. Because it can crit or whatever on you, and you can get your Celestial Fortune. Cast a Vivify on someone else and see how little that heals. It's actually incredibly sad. Really sad. So 92%, I mean, this just needed to happen. Celestial Fortune now has a chance to equal to your critical strike chance to be healed for an additional 80% of the amount that was healed was 65. Now, this is also a really big one for Brewmaster. Brewmaster really likes critical strike, so this is something that you're going to have in abundance. But this is also one of my top heals in Dragonflight. Right now, it is usually number 1 or 2, depending on some factors, right? Depending on tank busters, Celestial Brew planning, Celestial Brew timings, and things like that, and how well you can kind of manage through. But this is going to be very, very nice. And the nice part with this is 80% of the amount healed versus 85. You're going to be replicating so many heals for a lot of extra healing. So you combine that with Celestial Brew and Expel Harm. Those three right here, Brew's just going to be fine. They're fine. They're perfectly fine. They're not going to be affected by this, and especially because you have to remember, stagger is still stagger, right? You are still going to stagger off a lot of incoming damage, and that's how they work. And their active mitigation is a little bit more suited to stuff like this, especially because they got the rework to their kit and how things work, and how they can now be incredibly self-healing tanks and self-sustain. That was definitely with some buffs that we got in 10.0 throughout the thing, because they were very squishy at the start of the season, but now they're incredibly tanky. And if you've ever watched me play Brewmaster, it's quite literally they play a little bit like Blood Death Knights from time to time, just slower. Your health gets whittled down through stagger and taking damage. boom, you jump right back up with an Expel Harm. And then you have this small window when Expel Harm's on cooldown where you're just being whittled down again. You're getting your Purify Chi stacks. You're healing with Gaiplin's Brew through purifying your stagger. And then boom, right back up. And it's just this nice flow of momentum that really just works very well in Brewmaster's favor. So I think Brewmaster's going to be just fine. I don't think this is really going to hit Brewmaster very, very hard. Moment of Glory creates an Absorb Shield for 25% of all damage. Was 20%. I don't think we ever took Moment of Glory. I played with it here and there. And it was kind of fun in Raid from time to time, but Bulwark of Order creates an Absorb Shield for 30 and 60%, depending on how many talent points you have in, of Avenger Shield damage. Dealt was 2550. This is the bulk of some of your healing. It's not quite targeted, but it's more of your self-sustained whittle down healing, which is nice. So a small buff to that. I don't think the 10% is going to be I just don't think it's going to be enough, but I mean, Paladin's already in a crazy strong spot anyway, whatever. Light of the Titans healing is increased by 25%, whatever. Word of Glory healing is increased by 25%. Now this one actually matters, which is nice to see. And Flash of Light healing is increased by 50%. Now, Flash of Light I really only use like at the end of bursting pulls, like to help top people off and keep people alive so people don't die, then we have to res and things like that. Now, Paladin was already in an incredibly strong spot anyway going into the season, and probably a little overpowered, so this is going to nerf them for sure. The 25% buff is going to nerf them, but this kind of offsets that nerf a little bit. I still think they're going to be top dog tank, so I really wouldn't worry, Prop Pallies. I think you guys are just fine, but you kind of needed something to offset all of this too, right? So with all the defensives you have, I think Prop Pally is going to be fine, but this nerf is going to hit them a little bit harder, but because of how strong they were anyway, it's going to all kind of balance itself out, if I'm explaining myself correctly, right? And then Warrior. So Titanic Throw no longer affects crowd control targets, whatever. Ignore Pain absorbs 25% additional damage. This is really nice because Absorb Pain is the massive bulk of a Prot Warrior's healing. And I mean 40, 50, 55, 60% in a Mythic Plus run. I am viewing most of these through the lens of a Mythic Plus player more than Raid, because Raid tanking is, well, whatever. Pain and Gain heals for 3.5% of your maximum health was 4.5%. Yeah, that's okay. That's fixed an issue with Spirit Bastion, which whatever. Then we're going to go down to Protection. So Fueled by Violence causes you to be healed for 110% of the damage dealt by Deep Wounds. Was 85. This is something they just keep buffing. Like, they just keep buffing. Because your other option is Brutal Vitality. Brutal Vitality has seen a series of nerfs, and Fueled by Violence just keeps getting buffed, but like to the point where it's more you get healed for more damage than what Deep Wounds does. The problem is Deep Wounds doesn't deal that much damage. Like it's okay. It's not in your super low single target percent. It's okay, but it's not great. But the problem comes inherently with how Ignore Pain works and how you want to tank. Protection Warriors don't want to heal damage back up that they take. They want to avoid taking damage altogether. That's the point. That's a Protection Warrior. That's how they play. You want to ignore as much pain as possible, absorbing 50% of all damage incoming while having shield block up and just not taking damage. So the way Fueled by Violence works is you take damage and you heal it back up through doing damage, which is kind of counterintuitive to how we want to be playing. We don't want to be taking damage, so anything that we can do to buff up or ignore pain is better, even in the smaller amounts and that it may yield. That's kind of how it works, right? Like, that's Prot Warrior. So I don't see Fueled by Violence being taken, but who knows? I could be wrong. I don't think this is enough, but the big one here is Ignore Pain. Now, Prot Warriors are already insanely good at not taking damage, aside from the few things that we're really bad at, like big tank buster magical dots and bleeds. But Ignore Pain is really, really nice to be able to buff that up. And having a 25% increased stamina pool to have to chew through, even if it's 25% additional damage taken, we block most melee anyway. We can spell reflect a lot of spells, and we have, you know, shield wall, demo shet. We have tools to not take damage. So I actually think this is kind of a buff for Prot Warriors. Like, I think Prot Warriors really came out ahead here. Especially, like, yeah, like, that's a big one. So we do have some changes to the Prot Warrior tier set as well. Aberrus, the Shadow Crucible 2-set bonus has been adjusted. Shield Slam now reduces the cooldown of Last Stand by 2 seconds instead of 1 second. So I'm going to be going onto the PTR and checking this out, but I assume this effect is also still going to be doubled during Last Stand. So I think with a bolster, I think Last Stand is going to be a stupidly low cooldown. But we'll have to see how this works. My guess is this will probably get reverted to 1.5 seconds, but we'll see. The Aberrus Shadow Crucible 4-set bonus has been adjusted. Duration of Earth and Tenacity is increased to 20 seconds, was 10 seconds, and the damage of Earth and Smash is increased by 300%, which is good. Okay, this is good. So what this is the Shield Slam AoE component after Last Stand ends. Now, my problem wasn't with the base duration of 10 seconds. My problem was when that base duration of 10 seconds comes around. And that's after Last Stand ends. So you hit your Last Stand, and then you wait 15 seconds to get this damage buff. Now, this damage buff is going to be 20 seconds long, which is great, sure, as long as your pull now lasts a minimum of 35 seconds, which further hurts people in low-level keys. You might be learning spec or things like that, but like I have, you know, most pulls don't last 35 seconds in a +9 or a +10. Right? And if that's the content you're doing, you're going to see a lot of wasted damage. But if you're capable of chain pulling properly, especially once you start getting into like 20 fortifieds, pulls absolutely last 35 seconds or more, especially if you're kind of, you know, pulling aggressively, and that's not a problem. So this is going to see some play. All right, so we're going to have to kind of see how this plays out, but all in all, I kind of actually really do like where they've gone with this. 20% is a whole lot longer than 10 seconds. I will take it. So that is, you know, and you have to remember Earth and Smash applies a 5% DR. Shield Slam deals AoE component. So this is going to be really, really good for Mythic Plus, actually, and any AoE fights in Aberrus, although I don't think there's too many. So we'll just kind of have to see how this works and how this pans out. But we're going to be able to get down Last Stand to a very, very short cooldown with this, by the way. Like, I had gotten it down to like a minute 20, minute 25 without like super tryingly aggressively. But I think now with this, we'll definitely be able to get it down to like 1 minute. So shield block up time is going to be a joke. But yeah, so we're going to have to be looking into this for a new tier. I'm very excited for Prot Warrior and how this is going to work out. But what do you guys think of these changes? Good, bad, ugly, great? Let me know what you think. Are you still excited for Season 2 of Dragonflight? Because I really, really am. Although this is going to make tank life a little bit more difficult, but those who are good at the specs are going to be just fine. Those learning the specs are going to have a little bit more few steps to learn along the way. That's what it is. That's what they're going, and I do think there's going to be more buffs coming for certain specs. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Happy tanking. Bye.